left. Wendell Moore, long bounce pass to Griffin. Wow!
AJ Griffin, a forward out of Duke University, is arguably the best shooter in this year's NBA draft. The son of former NBA player Adrian Griffin, AJ rose to prominence as a top-tier high school recruit. However, Griffin has been plagued by injury, including sprains to both his knees, and that has turned him into one of the biggest enigmas in this year's prospect class. After being mocked to go in the top 7 all year long, Griffin could still go that high. However, there's a chance that he also falls on draft night. The case for Griffin being a lottery pick is as follows. AJ Griffin is an elite three-point shooter. Shooting a shade under 45% in his sole season at Duke, AJ Griffin has one of the most bankable skills in this year's NBA draft. He can shoot off the dribble, he can shoot off step backs, and he can catch and shoot. And NBA teams love having a forward with elite shooting ability. He should immediately fit next to better NBA players as a floor spacer. However, Griffin also has a lot of upside as a self-creator. Playing for a stacked Duke team, Griffin didn't get the opportunity to handle the ball a whole lot, but he was still able to show his chops as a guy you could give the ball to and he could attack the rim. He possesses a solid handle as well as a little bit of shiftiness, and oftentimes he was able to get by guys simply because they could not give him a gap given how deadly of a three-point shooter he is. A team's confidence in being able to tap into these self-creation flashes will probably determine how high he goes on draft night. Part of Griffin's creation upside has to do with his finishing ability. With a 7-foot wingspan, Griffin is able to extend and finish at hard angles around shot blockers. He's also able to absorb contact and initiate contact with his strength, and he possesses a craftiness and a good feel for finishing around the basket. The next positive is Griffin's defensive tools. While he is not a good defender at this point, and we'll get into that, his strength and his wingspan gives him a chance to be competitive on that end of the floor. And finally, AJ Griffin has an NBA background. Growing up around NBA locker rooms, AJ Griffin has been able to see what it's like firsthand to be an NBA player, and by all accounts he has an extremely hard work ethic and is also a quality person. There is no doubt that this dude will come in, work hard, and be a pro. But he does come with some concerns which could cause him to fall on draft night. The first of which is his lateral quickness. He's not the best defending on the ball on the perimeter, and a lot of this is due to stiff hips, as well as him trying to slide too long and not cross-stepping soon enough, and also it just looks like he has heavy feet when trying to defend on the perimeter. However, Griffin also has his struggles off the ball where he's prone to ball watching and getting back cut. When Griffin is locked in, he's shown that he can be a solid off-ball defender, but he has way too many mental lapses that'll need to be cleaned up. Griffin is also not the most explosive player, and this is evident on his first step. While he's still able to attack the rim and create for himself like we talked about earlier, it may be harder for him to do so in the NBA given his lack of explosiveness and quickness. Griffin looked like he was a more explosive player in high school, but a series of injuries have seemed to zap that, and the injuries are a concern with Griffin. The fact that he's dealt with serious knee sprains to both knees in the past year and a half or so is a serious concern. And finally, while NBA teams should be able to get this information through pre-draft workouts, I am a little bit concerned with AJ Griffin's overall measurements. While he does look like he has a 7-foot wingspan, he looks more on the side of 6'4" instead of his reported 6'6". He also has low shoulders for a prospect, so his standing reach might be a little bit lower than you'd expect. Given the fact that his defensive issues would be more prominent at the shooting guard position and his shooting would be less unique at that spot, the possibility that he's undersized for the small forward position is a concern for me. Unfortunately, he didn't measure at the draft combine, and I have no way of knowing this. Now, AJ Griffin did work out for the Portland Trail Blazers today, and there was a picture of them measuring his wingspan. It looked like it was a legitimate 7 foot, if not 7'1". So in regards to his measurement concerns, I'm sure the team probably measured his standing reach as well, and maybe his height, considering he didn't measure at the combine. I was just disappointed that he didn't measure. But that's enough about his measurements. Let's take a look at his game and how it translates to the league. I think he's going to be a 40% shooter in the NBA at some point. He looks like an absolute elite shooter, and at this point, he might have to rely on being that type of shooter in order to provide serious value to an NBA team, because he does have concerns elsewhere. The shooting, I don't have much to say about. He'll be able to knock down shots. Aside from the measurements and the injury concerns, the question marks for him in terms of just his game come in two separate areas. The first of which is his self-creation, the second of which is his defense. Being able to be a positive contributor in these areas consistently should end up making AJ Griffin a really good NBA player. If he can be a 3-and-D guy that poses some creation ability, then he's a very valuable player to an NBA team and could probably start for a contender. However, neither of these things are sure bets at this point, and because I don't know his measurements, I'm not sure how confident I should be in him becoming a solid to good defensive player at the small forward position. As far as his creation goes, I think he has a quick enough first step to be able to beat guys, considering guys can't give him a gap. He also has a strong enough frame to be able to put his shoulder into a defender and create leverage on a drive that way. Given the fact that he'll be playing off some better creators in the NBA than he did even on a stacked Duke team, he should get a lot of opportunities to attack closeouts, and I think that'll be a big area of emphasis for him in his training, is making the right read or the right decision after he attacks a closeout, whether that's a mid-range pull-up, whether that's getting to the rim, extending past maybe a rotating shot blocker, or dishing to a teammate. I am higher on his potential self-creation upside than I am on his defense, and if he's not going to figure things out defensively, he can still be a good NBA player if he's somebody that can create. He would just likely need to be in a system next to other good NBA defenders. As far as his defense goes, I don't really know what to make of it, because physically he looks like he has the tools. There's times where he looks solid defending on the perimeter, but his lack of perimeter quickness worries me a little bit when you consider the fact that he might be only 6'4". It's pretty hard to make up for a lack of perimeter quickness and a lack of positional size in the NBA and still be a good defensive player. The most optimistic I can be for the defensive part of his game is just hoping that he cleans up a lot of his mistakes off the ball, and he's maybe not somebody that you throw up against a primary ball handler, but he's somebody that you can put on maybe a lesser player, and he can defend that type of guy well enough on the perimeter, and then off the ball, he's a guy that can maybe use his wingspan to play passing lanes and kind of be a disruption in that way. I'm a little bit more confident in his ability as an off-ball defender than I am in his ability as an on-ball defender right now, but if he can find a way to become a better on-ball defender, to speed up his footwork, then all of a sudden his strength plus his wingspan becomes a serious asset to disrupt a ball handler. This is the biggest wild card for me because he had really bad film and really bad mistakes last year defensively at Duke, but his physical tools and a few of the flashes he showed gives you some possible hope that he could be a good defensive player. He could be really bad on that end, he could be solid, he could even be good. I have no idea. That's why I'm not a GM. That's why the GMs get paid what they do, to try and project that and figure out which way he's going to trend on the defensive end. From all accounts, he's a hard worker, and in his pre-draft interview with the Portland Trail Blazers, he spoke on the fact that he's been working on his defense, so I wouldn't put it past him to at least become an average defensive player. His floor is obviously if he doesn't figure out either of those things. In that case, he's just a guy who knocks down threes. Obviously, the worst case scenario is he doesn't get past these injury issues and his injury plague throughout his career, but not taking that into account, I still think his floor is a rotational guy, just being a three-man that can shoot off the bench at an elite level. Teams love having players like that. Good teams have played guys in the past that are just three-point snipers, and that's at a shooting guard position, and they've played guys that can't do a whole lot else. So being able to have that at the small forward position potentially is an asset that a good team would definitely value, even if he doesn't figure out his defense and if his self-creation doesn't translate to the league too well. I think a middle ground scenario is him being kind of a Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield isn't the best defensive player, and he's not super great creating for others or attacking the rim, but he's an absolute microwave shooter and around a 20-point per game scorer, and he has value to teams because of that. And even if the creation and defense don't work themselves out, I still think that's the type of player that he could be, just with a little bit more size at the three than a Buddy Hield. The best case scenario is he becomes a above average defender and he's able to create at an NBA level, improves his passing ability, and at that case you can't rule him out having all-star upside. Anybody that can shoot at that level, has some size, and then is able to create going downhill and handle the ball a little bit, has all-star potential in my opinion. I think there's a small chance that he could end up becoming the best scorer from this class, to be quite honest with you. I think he's the best shooter in this draft class. Obviously, to reach his ceiling, though, it's going to take a lot of things going right in his development, and then he's going to have to get past some of the injuries that have plagued him. Anyway, good fits for AJ Griffin. I think the highest he could go is to Portland at 7. However, the Blazers need to improve defensively, and I would, as a Blazer fan, rather go for a better defensive prospect. He could make some sense to New Orleans at 8. Could maybe even start next to CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram. I don't really like his game a whole lot at the 2, but having a floor spacer like that for McCollum, Ingram, and Zion Williamson would definitely be an asset. I think San Antonio could take a risk at 9, considering they have 3 first-round picks. And then I think New York at 11 would be a team that would like to have them. They need some shooting there in the Big Apple. Bringing in the best shooter in the draft who has some upside beyond that, I think would be the Knicks' preference in this draft. However, I can't rule him out falling out of the lottery given some of the concerns about him. That's why in the intro I had his draft range from like 7 to 18. But if there's going to be a guy who surprisingly falls like deep into the draft, maybe into the 20s, mid-20s, I think it would be an AJ Griffin. We've seen some players in previous years with some injury concerns drop further than people expected them to. Michael Porter Jr. was one of them, but his draft stock going into the season and kind of throughout the college year was higher than AJ Griffin's was this year, and he fell to 14. I don't think you can rule out AJ Griffin falling into the 20s, but he could also go 7, 8, 9, or 10. Anyway, that wraps up this AJ Griffin draft profile. Let me know what you think about AJ Griffin down in the comment section below, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.